Hey guys, I know some of you are really struggling. That's okay. Promise I'll be back next week. Um, just taking some time here to be with my new baby. But promise I'll be back next week. Do the best you can, guys. Um, as we work through this, writing equations and solving the equations with fractions in them. So do the best you guys can. I'll be back to help you guys, but I need you to work. I need you to give effort. That's all I ask for. And then next week, we'll really put this all together and wrap this up for the end of the year or end of the semester. So, all right, message me. Let me know if you need help. I'll be happy to help you. So, let's look at this this problem. Let's see if you guys understood the last lesson or not, which was when we were writing multi-step equations for problems. Jack and Jill, they're best friends. But one of them kind of likes the other one. Let's try and figure out who has a crush on who here. Who's liking who? They were sending texts to each other. Yeah, I know. Old, text. Who still does text? Jack sent 20 times the sum of the number of texts that Jill sent. 5. Now, how do we do that? If Jack sent 120 texts, how many texts did Jill send? So, what is our variable? What are we trying to find out? We're right here. How many texts did Jill send? So, you can use T for text, J for text, whatever you want to use. But what we're really looking for is how many texts did Jill send. I'm going to use a lowercase j. You can use whatever you want. J equals number of texts Jill sent. So, number of text Jill sent. So it says Jack sent. So that's kind of like Jack sent. Jack equals 20 times. So Jack's equals, do we know what Jack's is? Jack sent 120. So 120 equals 20 times. 20 times, remember that's multiplication, or a lot of times we're going to use parentheses. 20 times the sum. So 20 times something being added together. So that's where we need the parentheses. 20 times the sum, 20 multiplied by the sum, the addition of Jill's text, which would be the J, and 5. So we have 120 Jacks equals 20 times the sum, so addition, of Jill's text, J, and 5. So if you want to go ahead and do this, that's awesome. Or you just wait and I'll work it out. So we distribute, and hopefully I do it right, unlike the last video where I messed the one up. So 120 equals 20J plus 100. Subtract 100, subtract 100. We get 20 equals 20J. So what's that mean? 20 equals 20J. We divide. We get 1 equals J. What does that mean? What's J? Number of texts. So Jill sent 1 text. So you guys should start kind of getting a hint. What's that mean, right? So Jack sent 120 texts and Jill sent 1. So to answer our question here, who has a crush on whom? I think that's kind of obvious. Jack was texting all night. Jill finally got really annoyed and said, "Leave me alone," with 1 text. Jack definitely is the one that has a crush on Miss Jill. Alright, let's get into the new lesson. The new lesson today, lesson 511. Today we're focusing on I can write and solve equations to find missing. I can write and solve equations to find missing integers. Or maybe I'm going to change this to find consecutive. Find consecutive integers. This is a standard, guys. It's just a neat way we can use integers to find consecutive integers, and it's a kind of I think it's kind of fun. But you know, who am I? I'm a math teacher, so I find these things fun. Once you get the hang of it, I think you'll like it. But it is kind of tricky to get a hang of it, so stick with me here. I'm thinking of two consecutive integers. Their sum is 83. What are my integers? So a lot of you guys are going to guess and check on this. A lot of you guys are going to think, man, I can just guess and check, right? Two integers that add up to 83. So a lot of you guys are going to start guessing and checking. And that's not okay. You have to write an equation. You know, I expect that because they're going to get more difficult and you're not going to be able to just guess at these. But right now I want you to understand how to do it and the concept. So, some of you are already thinking, well, I can just figure this out, right? You know, what are two numbers that add up to 83? Well, yeah. But we figure out how would we use an equation to do this. So, define a variable. What are we missing? Well, two integers. Well, we're going to say x is the smallest integer. What does it mean, consecutive integers? Well, consecutive integers would be something like 3 and 4. Those are consecutive integers, right? 4 is right after 3. That is consecutive. Those are right beside each other, consecutive. So, if x is the smallest integer, now I'm starting to work on the equation. If x is the smallest integer of the consecutive, that's our first integer. If they're consecutive, what would be the next integer compared to x, compared to the first? Because this is my first integer, x. So what would be the second integer? How does it compare to the first one? It is always going to be, or in this case, since they're consecutive, it's going to be 1 greater than x. Right? It's 1 more than x because it's consecutive. So x plus 1 equals 83. And now it's actually a pretty simple equation to solve. We combine our like terms. X plus x is 2x. Subtract 1 from both sides. 2x equals 82. We divide, and we get x equals 41. So, it says, what are the two consecutive integers? So my integers are, well, the first one's 41, because the smallest integer, x, is 41. The next integer would be 42. And you can always check this. Is 41 plus 42 83? It is. So those are my two consecutive integers that have a sum of 83. Alright, now if you understood that one and you're like, oh, that's easy, using an equation, not just guessing, but actually writing an equation, then go and do this next one. If you didn't understand it, then just follow the video. So two consecutive integers have a sum of 65. What are the integers? So x is the smallest integer. So if x is my first integer, the next consecutive integer is 1 more than x. If you want parentheses, you can put them in here to show that this is the first integer, this is the second integer. You don't have to have the parentheses though. Equals 65. We have combined like terms, x plus x is 2x plus 1 equals 65. Subtract 1, you get 2x equals 64. Divide by 2 and you get x equals 32. Consecutive. So our integers are 32 and what's one more than 32? 33. And do they add up to 65? They do. Alright, let's try, see if we can get through at least one more on this video. This one's a little different. Does anyone know why it's different? What is different about example 2 here? This word even. Even. So what are two consecutive even integers? Even integers. 4 and 6 would be consecutive even integers. 8 and 10. 10 and 12. What do you notice about those? How far apart are they? 4 plus what is 6? 8 plus what is 10? 10 plus what is 12? They're always plus 2. Plus 2, right? It's always 2 away. Consecutive even integers are always 2 away from each other. So, if we want the sum, addition, the sum, two consecutive even integers, sum, we're going to have to do, well, first x is our smallest integer. Then the next one, okay, so if x is the smallest integer, the next, we're going to say, so if x is our first integer, what's the second integer? How's it going to compare to the first? If it's even, well, it can't be x plus 1 because that would be an odd number. That'd be 1 more than it, right? So if it was even, the next number would be an odd. So it has to be x plus 2 because it has to be 2 more, just like 6 is 2 more than 4 and 10 is 2 more than 8. A lot of people have trouble with that concept. So if we want even integers, the second one is 2 more than the first one. Okay, so it has a sum of 98. So x and x is 2x plus 2 equals 98. So now we solve it pretty easy. Subtract 2. 2x equals 96. Divide. We have x equals 48. So x, the smallest integer, is 48. So what would be our integers? Remember, they're consecutive even integers. So if 48 is our smaller integer, what's the next? Plus 2. Remember, plus 2 would be the next even integer. So that would be 50. 48 plus 50 is 98. Alright, I'm going to end this video, guys. This is video 1 of lesson 511. We're going to have to make another one for part 2, starting right here. Second question on example 2, so make sure you go ahead and start that video next.